This is Ivy Unleashed, a Gold Ivy production.
What I like hearing about your coaching is it sounds really holistic, right? Like you're going to shift one thing that's going to affect another. And the fact that it sounds like you're really turning women towards healthier options with food, and so, which is going to help your gut health and your hormone health. And I just think that's so important that, you're going to weave in sleep, you're going to weave in stress management, you're thinking about what kind of workouts make sense. And just the more we understand ourselves, the more that we can move through this life just a little bit more smoothly, a little bit more grace. And I'm already just like feeling some freedom thinking about this. It's like making me emotional. Like how many women are going to be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just what it is right now. And so I'm going to just tell my friends, hey, not today. I'm in winter. Spring is coming, but it's not yet.
Yeah. And something I think that's really fun that I do with my clients is I do what I call like sign reading. So if you're into astrology, you know how you have like a sun, moon, and rising sign? I call it your phase and rising season. So you heard me describe how a season correlates with each phase of your cycle, but also an influencer in your energy overall is what physical season of the year you're in. So for example, your period during the summer, physical season of summer, is going to be a little bit higher energy than your period during the physical season of winter. So even right now, I'm in my luteal phase where like I'm kind of slowing down on energy. It could be a PMS danger zone if I were at that stage in my life still. But because it's summertime, it's like warm out. I'm pretty good right now. That's why I scheduled this podcast interview, because usually I would not during this part of my cycle. But because it's summertime and because I was really excited to talk to you guys, I made that choice because I felt really confident in it. And so it's just another example of how bringing your cycle to the forefront and making these decisions, whether it's social, business, or health and fitness, letting your cycle be a guide is really going to help align your energy and match whatever energy you have at that given time.
I love that. I keep thinking too, like, how am I going to weave this into my calendar, right? You're saying type A, and immediately in my head, I'm like, all right, let me open up my calendar at the minute we close this, and I'm going to put what phase I feel like. I'm serious about this, but
I'll show you after this call. This is what I do. That's literally what it is.
So when you're booking, like you said, podcasts or like social events, is that kind of how you bring things or your cycle syncing into it? You think about, okay, do I need more sleep? Like what do you really take into account? Like give us some more examples.
Absolutely. So when it's mainly around business, because again, you don't have to be 100% with cycle syncing. We as women have been ignoring our cycle and still getting massive amounts of things achieved, which means we are very capable human beings. We can literally do anything we want. However, the more we sync to our cycle, the better we're going to feel. But it does not have to be 100% all the time. Life happens, things happen. So I really, because I am a female entrepreneur, I have the luxury of making my own schedule. And that's why I love working with female entrepreneurs for that reason. I make sure that my business is truly aligned with my cycle. So interviews or recording course modules. I'm launching a podcast, so I'm going to be recording podcasts. That would definitely be like ovulatory phase, summer phase of my cycle, because my communication is there. I have high energy. I feel really hot. I feel confident. So I just want to embrace and all of that. And so that's definitely where I tap into it. I avoid too much stuff that is interviewing or having me put a face on towards the end of my luteal, beginning of menstrual. I'm sure you guys are female business owners, and the thought of trying to create content during certain times of the month is literally like pulling strings. You're not getting much, right? So I think batching content during certain phases of your cycle is better than doing it like once a week. These once a week things, or even with your social calendar or business calendar, we think by spreading it out throughout the whole course of the month that's doing us a favor because we have days in between. But if you're not considering your cycle, it goes against it. And I see so many women, whether it's moms or entrepreneurs or whoever, they think they're doing themselves a favor, but really they feel resistant half of the time because of their cycle and its ebbs and flows.
What about so interesting?
What about syncing your cycle with people you live with? I feel like growing up, right, with my girlfriends is like, oh, or like even us. And now I'm thinking to like as business partners, like we got to batch. We got to get on the same schedule, girlfriend.
We're really close. We're always really close. It's like you get it first and then I get it shortly after.
No, I think we're like getting more spread out. I don't know. Is that a thing? Like, have you...
It's weird because I sync with all of my clients over the internet and I have no freaking idea how it happens, y'all. It's crazy. But what I think is super cool. So I like to think of, so I break down the 4 phases in many ways. Seasons is what I do for the podcast, but inside my courses, I break it down as Sex and the City characters or Mean Girl characters or Avengers. So think of a work team such as yourselves as like a team of Avengers. And so even if you guys aren't on the same part of your cycle, you are bringing different superpowers to the table. So maybe one person is feeling really analytical and clear about where this business is going, what makes sense, what doesn't, while someone is having delusional confidence that's bringing in a whole bunch of new clients. Both are amazing. Women think that they need to be the whole assembly of Avengers in one day. They cannot. You have to zoom out from a 24-hour perspective into more of a monthly perspective. Look at your productivity from that lens instead of this 24-hour span, and again, you'll have another wave of relief hit you.
Gosh, I love this idea so much. And it makes sense because this happens with us so much where we're like, I just want some more clarity on this thing. And I'm like, we're good. I feel like,
I'm like, you're delusional.
But I want a clear answer. She'll be like more analytical sometimes. And then it's totally vice versa. And so I feel like we need to come up with who our Avengers are and like what their role is. And you'll be like, I'm this one today. And I'll be like, I'm this one today. How can we work together? Or just put it in your
Google Calendar. And I always have access to what phase you're in.
She's type A here.
I love that idea. I love that. That's amazing.
So fall and winter, that's when you're more analytical, or, I'm just thinking, okay, so when energy is high, when I'm in that follicular phase, what's the opposite? So like business wise, what should we be prioritizing during those seasons?
So follicular and ovulatory is very much so whatever tasks are high energy, creative, and planning. Luteal phase, your fall phase, is more behind the scenes. Think of systems, think of reports, think of details. And then menstrual phase is very much so the time you slow down to speed up. What makes sense, what doesn't. And it doesn't have to be your whole period, because I'm sure what happens for most women is after the first 2 or 3 days of their period, especially once their periods are less painful, they already have that follicular vibe happening. So I meant to mention this earlier, but I teach the 4 phases, but you will be taught about your cycle. There could be 2 phases or 3 phases, depending on who's teaching it, like from a scientific or biological way. Like technically the menstrual phase is considered the follicular phase too. So it gets a little confusing, but for what I'm teaching, which is habits, there are very much so 4 distinct vibes. So that's why I kind of keep it at that. But yeah, the second half is low vibes, behind the scenes. Again, doesn't mean you can't get stuff done, but it's a biohacking tool to be consistent in whatever you're trying to be consistent in, especially in business. Like I work with women who struggle being consistent on social media. And it's like, well, why are you batching every week, honey? You need to optimize it during the phases of your cycle that support it. And then even on those days where you feel like you couldn't pull a creative idea out of your ass, you already have something that you created when you did. And that's how you biohack your business.
I feel attacked in the best way possible.
Everything is making so much more sense. And I keep thinking about how this can apply not only to entrepreneurs, but stay-at-home moms, or someone that's studying in school, or someone that's trying to get their finances in order, of like when to plan and when to really go after making more money, or when to kind of shed what's unnecessary in your life or your spending, or, whatever. I keep thinking like, I am so hard on myself if I'm not consistent with the same things all the time. And I feel like this is kind of not a free pass, but like let's just plan this a little bit better in a way that will get you actually better results by having more of the rest and then really going for it when you've got that like spurt of energy. I love it.
It's like structure, but flow, right? Like you have that structure that you need to be consistent, but there's variety and there's ebbs and flows.
Did you just want to say flow?
Kind of. I do use the Flow app, and now I'm kind of sad that things are changing. But I've had good luck with it. Like, I was terrified getting off the pill, how things would be, because when I got on the pill in high school, I had terrible cramps, like passed out from them. And then I went on the pill. And then with my own health journey, I'm like, I think there's a better way to do this. So I was terrified getting off of it, but tracking it and I think just healthier habits have made such a difference. So even when you're talking about nutrition, I'm like, my PMS, although it was bad, kind of is right now, it's been a lot better. So I feel like it's so interconnected, all of these things. But if you can get spot on with giving yourself grace, giving yourself the rest that your body needs, like then it's go time. The minute that period's out of here.
I'm curious about advice you give women about like when you know you're having a hormonal day and you're like, I'm off, I'm weird, I don't know if I'm depressed, like what is happening? It feels like it's out of nowhere. I'm just having a bad hormone day. Like what kind of advice do you give women in those moments?
Get off social media ASAP. Do not scroll. I think that boundaries are very important during that. I call it the danger zone. There's just a group of days where if you're not on top of a few health habits that I teach inside my courses, then it really could wreak havoc for you. And so I think number one is the expectation that we should feel amazing every single day is unrealistic. So give that up, honey. And then also surround yourself with the things that make you feel good. So if scrolling on Instagram and comparing yourself to someone who's in their summer phase while you're deep in the depths of fall or winter, like that's not going to feel good. Get off of it. Do something that your future self will thank you for. And really be aware of what's triggering you, whether it's people, whether it's food, whether it's whatever. You're smart woman. All of your listeners are smart women. They know what's serving them and what's not. But I just feel like things like watching too much TV during that time or like being on the internet too much, like get outside and just do something that doesn't have you like marinating in that feeling.
Yeah, that's tricky though, right? Because you're low energy, so you feel like just sitting and watching a bunch of shows, or you feel like sitting and scrolling because you're not in the mood, or you don't want to be around people. So I feel like that's such a great reminder of like, just sit outside in the sun. You don't feel like moving, maybe you don't feel like seeing people. Maybe you're really pissed at your husband and you have no idea why. Remove yourself because you're probably the problem. But it's also not your fault that you're the problem, right? Like we just go through this, and so it's like, what can you do that feels easy, that's not involving a screen? And I love that idea.
Yeah, I personally love a good skincare routine. Or even if I do want to sit around and watch a good Netflix doc, like I have an infrared sauna. I know not everyone has an infrared sauna, but I have a sauna. Like let's work on my health or stretch or do something again that has my body just moving a little bit while doing that. I'm all about multitasking. I personally love to like meal prep while binging Netflix. And I'm like, at least I'm doing something productive that my future self will thank me for while I'm, binging whatever series.
And Jacqueline, something that I love about following you is just the kind of array of things you talk about. Like we have just scratched the surface of how this can weave into your routine. And I think something you do that's so great is you're really funny. And you're not afraid to post something when you don't look like your makeup all done self. And then like you just show the variety pack of what a woman can be. And I love it so much. And I'm so grateful that you share yourself this way. That's real and raw. But then you post like these sexy pictures of you. I don't know. I just think you're so refreshing. And I want everybody able to follow you because you give such tangible tips in the midst of showing a variety pack of what a woman can be. So where can everybody find you if they want to get involved and try your courses and learn more and apply it more to their life? Where can they find you and how can they access your work?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, because that's truly what I want to emulate. I teach in a way that I wish I was taught younger. I do not want my clients to feel like they're in a health class or a doctor's office when they come into the House of Menstrual Mogul, which is what I call it. So any of your listeners can find me at Menstrual Mogul on Instagram. That's where I definitely am. I've been there for 10 years building a community, and it's like my favorite spot to drop knowledge, to be real, to show you the no BS behind the scenes version of all the cycle syncing things. And so because it's summertime at the recording of this, pretty much, it's like the beginning of summer, I am embodying a lot of those ovulatory vibes, meaning I don't really want to be behind a desk too often creating courses. So I'm just doing one-to-one mentorship this summer. I want to be giving coaching advice outside in the Wyoming mountains. I joke that I'm menstruating in the mountains, and that's where I coach. So I'm doing one-on-one mentorship which comes with a really immersive experience. So if anything today spoke to you, especially if you're a female entrepreneur or really feel like you need a customized and unique approach to this, then I would love for you to apply to that. And I have a quick 15-minute call with you. But also I have a course catalog that ranges from the food and fitness side of things to the business side of things. And so just send me a DM and let's have a conversation. I don't want to just point you at any one thing, because I think each woman is unique. And so I love to have a conversation with each of my clients before pairing them with the perfect match.
Amazing. Oh, like Andrew said, you're so refreshing and so helpful. If someone just listens to 5 minutes of this, they're going to get a life-changing tip. So thank you so much for your time. We know it's so precious, and we leave our listeners with 3 gold stars. So 3 top takeaways you have that you'd like to share.
Yes. So the first one would be to track more than just your period. We talked about that, knowing and bringing the 4 phases into a personal calendar, or not just leaving it hidden in an app where you'll update whenever you have your period once a month. I really want you to begin thinking about your cycle on the regular. And so tracking more than just the week of your period is going to be crucial in you doing that. I mentioned eating something before caffeine. That is going to change your life, especially during the fall season of your cycle. You are going to see a lot of PMS symptoms dwindle by putting that gold star in there. And then I'm an inner rebel. I love to break the rules, and I really just love to get curious and question a lot of things. So I want you to embrace your inner rebel too, and think about how certain things, such as like a 9-to-5 schedule or a 24-hour productive period or a 5-day work week, how it goes against our cycle as women, and how a lot of structures and narratives put in place by society do not sync with our cycle. And the importance around doing this is knowing that a lot of things that you feel guilty of are not your fault. And so my goal is always to just empower women to know that they can feel a level of confidence that they never felt before inside by way of cycle syncing, and just learning a little bit more about them, or learning more about it rather, not just for themselves, but for future females. You know, I hear every single day, this is the shit they should have taught us in school, and they don't. And I don't know when they will. Maybe by the time the end of my life and all the work that I do, they will be. But the thing that brings me so much joy is having mothers, or even like grandmothers or whoever, want to learn this information, not just for themselves, but for the future females too.
Oh, I love that tip so much, because I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids, and I'm thinking of, yes, I can explain it to my daughters, but also my son, to understand humans better, understand himself and how he can adapt to his partner, whether it's female or male, doesn't matter. But just thinking about them in the future and how empowering this is. And then just having more compassion for other people, knowing, like, I look at women on like the bus or wherever I'm at, like shopping somewhere. I'm like, God, women are so badass. Like, yes, we can do everything while bleeding, while pregnant, while going through loss, like all of these things. And so I'm so happy that you're sharing this knowledge and that we're sharing it. And I'm excited to talk with my kids about it. And so the next portion of our show is called Unleashing Ivy. So digging a little bit more into you, Jacqueline, and speaking about children, you share beautifully in your blog very personal stories and a lot of information. But one of them that drew me in was how you are intentionally childless. And you talk about that in Reels and you talk about that in your blog. And so I would just love for you to tell us a little bit about like why you made this decision and how you handle the questions and the comments that come in that territory.
Love it. Yeah. So I'm childless by choice. It is official. My husband got a vasectomy in the fall. So it is definitely not happening. I have very motherly qualities. I care a lot. I nurture a lot. I was a nanny for 10 years. So I felt like that gave me a good insight of what parenting could look like. And I had just never had that urge and inclination the way I do to be a dog mom, if I'm being completely honest. And I don't think that that's something that I'm made to do if that's not like my urge, if my level of wanting to do it is not at that, needing to. So I have been very lucky around questions. I don't know if it's because I live in the middle of nowhere that I really don't get that many, but like also I feel like it is a thing now, women being more open about being childless by choice. And I freaking love kids. I commend you for being a mother of 3. Like that is no joke. And I love mothers and children so much, but I really just love the irony of being a cycle syncing coach because many women only associate their cycle with being or not being pregnant. And whether you want to get pregnant or not, your goal for your body is to ovulate and have like a healthy cycle each and every month for your optimum health. So it matters whether you want children or not, this information that I'm teaching. But yeah, we just want to be dog parents, and that's the road we're going down. And my astrologer told me I was a mom in another life, but this lifetime, I'm like a rainbow mother, they call it. I'm just like nurturing from afar.
I love that.
You're doing a great job of it.
Yes.
And how badass, right? Giving yourself permission. I don't want to. It's not for me, and there's nothing wrong, and I don't have to explain myself.
Again, I'm an inner rebel. Maybe that's just, the rebellion in me.
I love it.
I love it. Another thing you share, and this is my question, is being sober. September 2021. So I'm curious what inspired that and also how that has affected your cycle syncing.
Absolutely. So I again, here comes my inner rebel. I have a hard time connecting, and I just want to say this in case anyone else is listening and feels this. I have a hard time connecting with the word sober. Number one, I have partaken in the past few years, like in THC here or there. I don't use it regularly, but like sober, I think of nothing like that so that's one component. But also I have family members growing up who are sober, and their lifestyle and the way that they did it, like I never connected with that term. And so I think that's actually a reason why I didn't quit drinking for so long. But basically, I always had a touch and go relationship with alcohol that I'm sure many women can relate to. And then when I moved out here to Jackson Hole, it is a tourist zone here in Wyoming. And everyone feels like they're on vacation because everyone who's visiting is on vacation. That means hiking with a drink, biking with a drink, skiing with a drink. And my drinking just got very bad when I lived here for a few years, to the point where like my husband had quit drinking, a lot of my friends had, and I was still drinking by myself. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I tried the moderation thing. That didn't work. Tried the no weekdays, tried only on special occasions. Didn't work for me. I'm an all or nothing person. And again, I have addiction in my family. So that's another thing too. So I let myself have fun during the summer when I got married. I didn't want to like put that pressure on myself to give it up. And I had gone through spells of like 3 months of no drinking or things like that for certain protocols or diets I've tried in the past. And then one September day, there was no determining factor. I just was like, I'm done. I am so done. So what that did for me was, I mean, as far as hormones go, it definitely reduced my stress. It increased better sleep for me. So those are all things that are really powerful and helpful. But I just like to say, like I was thinking about alcohol so much. I'm sure women listening have dealt with like that ping pong conversation of like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? And like, it was just always such a topic in my head. And I was so done with having it consume any part of me anymore, whether I was drinking or like the mental aspect of it, which I think is worse than actually drinking. And that's why many times we give into it, is because we're tired of this ping pong match. So I just wanted to give that up. And I wanted it to be a thing that was like so not part of my life. So that's why I talk about it, but I don't talk about it every day or make it who I am or my identity, because it took up so much of my life already. But I am very proud. This September, it'll be 2 years since I had alcohol. I don't miss it at all. And it was, definitely helped my hormones too, though.
That's amazing. Jinx.
I can relate so much to that conversation of like, you say, okay, I'm just not going to have any this week. And then you're like, well, and then you feel like you're not living in integrity, right? Of like this, I said this thing, but then why not? Why am I being hard on myself? But like, no, I'm not as productive, or, it's just, I totally can relate to that. I know so many women have those conversations. I know my friends and I do, where it's like, should we all go in on a pact this week? Because if one of us says, let's get together, we're all going to do it, And so it is a conversation that I can totally relate to.
Yeah. And I will say I have like a privileged situation where many people in my life don't drink anymore. I know that's not the case for anyone. So if anyone's listening and they need support in that, feel free to DM me. I'm like happy to share more about my story or just be a listening ear, because I know it's a lonely road sometimes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, and our last question, if you could go back and tell younger Jacqueline something, what would you tell her?
I would say that growing up, I was on paper not the best student, failed out of business school, didn't get good grades, and I always felt like I was failing at something, but I always made people laugh. I always was really creative and funny and loved to just connect with others. And those things that I was put down for, essentially, not even like intentionally, but just those weren't things I was getting quote unquote graded on, were actually what my superpowers are right now. The fact that you guys said that on the internet I'm funny, the way I explain stuff, is such an honor, because I want, that's the message I want to convey. So these things that, again, it's questioning society and standards that we're supposed to live up to. Like, are they actually serving me, or is it a superpower that I have? And so I would just tell her that like your rebellion is your magic, and to never let go of that spark.
Oh, chills.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And I mean, all I see is just you living your power. Like you going against the norm of everything and saying, hey, there's a better way to do this, where we don't have to feel like shit. We don't have to give ourselves shit. And we can be okay living as we were made to, right? Getting synced up, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, and also talking about something that like we're not supposed to talk about. Like,
yes.
What a rebellious thing for you to do. To just be like, I'm going to talk about periods with everybody on the planet on social media.
And it took me a minute to get that way, because like even 2 years ago I was like, oh no, who am I going to scare away, like these male followers? And then I was like, screw that. I'm going to talk about periods. If anything, I'll deflect the creepy men on the internet. But yeah, I feel like the less taboo this can be, again, how you're saying, like whether it's with work or your girlfriends, and it's like, listen, I'm like not feeling that sociable this week, like I'm going to have to tap out this, because of this. Like the more we can bring that into conversations that are happening day to day, the better. So yeah.
Yeah, my neighbors, we call it a cave day. I need a cave day. Just like, I'm not coming out. Don't ask. I'm not. It's a cave day.
I like it. I might need like a cave week. Does that pertain to business too? Can I tap out for a week? Just kidding. When it's things like this, like you don't need to, right? Like you can be fully honest and vulnerable with where you're at. Like I'm like, dude, my uterus is having a party that I wasn't invited to, and it's like, okay, but just being able to say that, right? Having that honesty and that like, Feels so good. So everyone listening, I hope you felt that way. I hope you feel like there's nothing wrong with you, that you gained some awesome tools from this conversation. Jacqueline, we are so grateful that you sat down with us, that you're now part of our circle.
Yes.
We love everything you're about. And we leave our listeners with a piece of gold, a quote that speaks to you. Would you please share yours?
Yes. So I just think many women question what it is they should or shouldn't be doing with whatever goals they have, whether it's with your health, with your business, with your personal life. And it's always like we're searching for the next best thing, or we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And this sounds so cliche, but it is literally living inside of you. Your cycle is the ultimate compass and guide in helping you navigate whatever your biggest desires are. And you're going to not only finally feel like you know what you should be doing, but there's going to be an effortless ease and like magic that happens while you do it. So my goal for you is just to, number one, know this is a thing, feel a sense of relief, and also to tap into the magic of cycle syncing, because it's truly so simple and magical.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.